All right, God bless. Today the topic is greater than your sum. Now, a quote attributed to Aristotle says, quote, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts," end of quote. So to some degree, we all understand this. We're greater than our sum. And this quote means that an arrangement of parts, though independently important, will be even more useful, more functional, more important, more beautiful, more magnificent, or in some way greater than all the separate parts on their own. For example, if you were to take all the parts out of your smartphone and lay them side by side on the table, those separate parts will not text, call, Facebook, take selfies, count your steps, send emojis, or allow Facebook's GPS to keep track of you the way a fully assembled smartphone does. If you take apart a red rose and laid each lovely piece gently on the counter in front of you, the separated parts will never look as beautiful as a whole flower. Now, how does this apply to us? In business or on a team, when a group works together, they will usually achieve far more than if each person tried to do it by themselves. They call it synergy or teamwork. Now, individually, we're a compilation of parts that rely on each other. Now, I'm not just talking about arms and legs and eyes and whatever organs you have. Did you know that if you counted up all the cells in your body, that only 43% of them are human? Let's let that hang there for a second. Now, the rest of you is made up of a microbiome that lives in and on us. It's bacterial cells. So there's more of those than we have human cells. Sort of weird. Plus, in this amazing body that we have, we're able to utilize and to house the Spirit of God. Plus, God calls us His habitation. We're where He lives. We have Christ in us too. And we're individually members of the body of Christ. There's a lot more to us than us. The whole of us is enhanced by all the parts working together. We are greater than the sum of all our parts. 55 Chevy. By the time I turned 16 years old, I had already enjoyed a few brushes with Texas lawmen, none of which were enjoyable. Now, who likes shotguns thrust into their ribs, revolvers pulled, or blackjacks slammed down threateningly on cold gray office desks? You see, usually the impromptu get-togethers with the police were solely due to the fact that I had long, strawberry blonde hair. Now, to them, I looked like a dirty hippie who was coming for their daughters. But to me, I just wanted a little adventure. I just wanted a little excitement. And so that summer, I was really going to try to be a good boy. I really wanted to be a good boy. But trouble seemed to follow me around like the planets circumnavigate the sun. Hey, I was a redhead. You know, whoever said blondes have more fun? Now, one evening, I was hanging out at the lake, a brown water Texas lake that we shared with catfish, crawdads, and the poisonous water moccasins. And this was a place where teens like me like to swim and hang out after a long day of doing whatever Texas hippies did in those days. Well, nothing much was happening that night, so I decided to call it a night. And I hopped into my 55. I gunned the throaty V8 engine, spun my wheels, flung a little red dirt in the direction of all my friends as a way to say goodbye. And after a couple of miles, I saw flashing red police lights behind me. And I knew this encounter on that dark, secluded Texas farm road had the possibility of going very, very badly. So I adjusted my tarnished halo. And from my side view mirror, I saw the officer got out of his car and he adjusted his Smokey the Bear campaign hat and he pulled out his long flashlight and he tapped it against his leg. Then he slid his hand as he walked toward my window along the side of my car. And it was almost a passionate stroking. And, And then he ambled up beside me, and I thought, oh, here we go again. But at least he didn't have his gun in his hand, which was unusual. And he asked me to get out of the car and open the hood. And I thought, what the? I never had any. I've had a lot ask me to get out of a car, but never to open the hood. So I trudged to the front of the car, and I slid my fingers through the chrome grille with the custom-made peace sign integrated into its center. And I found the lever, and I popped open the hood, and he leaned right over into it and started shining his flashlight around at the orange and the chrome engine. And he said, "What you got in this car, boy?" And I still didn't know why he pulled me over. And sensing my confusion, he rephrased. He said, "What you running, kid?" And then I went, oh, I got it now. This cop is a motorhead. He pulled me over to look at my car. So I leaned under the hood, right next to him, shoulder to shoulder, and I said, "Sir, it's a 327 with pop-up pistons and power pack heads, has fender well headers, a Holley 780 dual-line carburetor with secondary squirters, a T10 transmission with Positrack rear end." And the cop said, "Cool, nice. Thanks for showing me your car, boy. Drive safe." And then he left. He got in his car and he took off. Well, when he pulled away, I felt like I won something. I felt like I needed to hood slide across the front of that car and enter the car through the driver's window. And the Dukes of Hazzard wouldn't even air for 6 more years. Thank God he didn't look under my personal hood by asking me personal questions. My mental gears were going haywire. My heart was pumping. My emotions were peaked. My past, present, and future were all coming to a point when he walked up to me. Especially my past. Had he questioned me, he might have realized that I was far more interesting than my 55 Chevy. See, we are far more than the sum of all our parts. There's far more to you about you than you even realize. You are each and all amazing. You are far more than the sum of all your parts. See, what your mom sees when she looks at you is an angel with a slightly tarnished halo, some of you, except for one person in here. And what your dentist sees is teeth that need cleaning. To a detective, you have the right to remain silent. A preacher sees a soul that needs a saving. You see, a yoga instructor sees a body that needs a bending. You see, a friend may see the worst in you, but she thinks the best. A microbiologist sees that you're only part human. God, the Creator, the Father, sees all of you. He sees your past, your present, and your future at the same glance. He sees his amazing child as being able to dominate and subdue whatever he or she needs to conquer. And he sees you helping others do the same thing. He sees you in your future. See, he sees you as a super conqueror, joint heir with Christ, one who can do greater works than even Jesus worked. He saw you long before there was even an earth to support you, and he sees you in your magnificent future. He designed this universe around the thought of you. He built an earth teeming with life to support just you. He sees only love when he looks at you, and he designed you to shine so brightly in this dark world that you are unmistakable, you are undeniable, and shine you do, folks. He designed you to dominate and polished you to shine. God knows that you are far more than the sum of all your parts. He designed you that way. You are pretty amazing, folks. So let your light shine. Remember what you're made of. Now, we're all set up for success, but there are forces out there who want to use the sum of your parts for their gain. You ever have anybody want to use you? You see, sometimes we need to know that what we're up against so we can, as they said in 1973, keep on trucking. You see, in a few recent conversations surrounding current events, I heard people say, the world is going crazy. What's going on out there? It seems like things are getting worse and worse. Doesn't the Bible say something about that, Mark? Well, Paul did say in 2 Timothy 3:13 that evil men and seducers will wax worse and worse. The Voice says it well, but as for the wicked and the impostors, they will keep leading and following each other further and further away from the truth. I love that. They lead and follow each other further and further from the truth. And you see that with a lot. You even see it with Christianity. You know, you see it in politics like crazy. You see, that being said, we need to be careful where we set our believing. We have to be careful what we think. You know, are we afraid or are we hopeful? Are you thankful or are you scared? Our fear can become our snare, Proverbs 29:25 says. And what you're afraid of can happen, or it didn't happen to Job. See, speaking of being led astray, have you ever had your GPS mislead you? Yes. It's no fun. There's one street near my house called Dublin Avenue. And every time I drive down it with my GPS maps running, it tries to divert me into an apartment complex. Back in, around this roundabout, back out, and then back on the Dublin. I don't know why. I don't know why. You see, it's bizarre. But the world will try to divert us. In stupid diversion sometimes, but the world will try to make us think that they're sane and smart and right. How do we bring out the best in ourselves and stay on track when the world tries to lead us astray, tries to direct us astray? First, we have to remember what we're made of. You have to remember that the whole of you is greater than the sum of your parts. You are wonderfully made. 1 John 4:4-6 from the Message. My dear children, you come from God and belong to God. You have already won a big victory over those false teachers. For the Spirit is in you. For the Spirit in you is far stronger than anything in the world. These people belong to the Christ-denying world. They talk the world's language, and the world eats it up. But we come from God and belong to God. Now 1 John 4:4 says, greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. More common to a lot of us. Greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. Now, if you're going to belong to someone, it might as well be the Creator who loves you, right? You see? Loves every single wonderful part of you. Remember, if you're a parent, remember when you have a baby, you love every part of that baby. You can't wait to see it and smell it and kiss it and hug it. I mean, it's an amazing thing. Well, God, that's how he thinks of you throughout eternity. Even if you have stinky diapers, you know, of some sort. You see? God loves every wonderful part of you. He made, formed, and created you. You are awesome and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14-16 from the Message. Oh yes, you shaped me first inside, then out. You formed me in my mother's womb. I thank you. High God, you're breathtaking. Body and soul, I am marvelously made. I worship in adoration. What a creation. You know me inside and out. You know every bone in my body. You know exactly how I was made, bit by bit. How I was sculpted from nothing into something. Like an open book, you watch me grow from conception to birth. All the stages of my life were spread out before you. The days of my life all prepared before I even lived one day. You each are awesome and wonderfully made. And God has laid out a path for us that will work if we'll just follow it and not get distracted. And I want to say, you each and all have some amazing parts. The accuser's first question. So what dulls our shine? What dulls our shine? You know, what trips us up? What wastes so much of our time and the life that we've been given? Enter the devil, Satan, Lucifer, the deceiver, Splitfoot, the ruler of this world, the adversary, the prince of the power of the air you breathe. Well, the word Satan in the Greek means accuser. Accuser. And Job 1:7 from the Voice says, Eternal One, to the accuser, where have you been? The accuser, oh, roaming here and there, running around the earth and observing its inhabitants. That's the devil talking to God. I've just been going around, just checking everybody out. Okay, this is going to mean something in a minute. Job was the first book of the Bible ever written. It was written before Genesis. And in the first chapter of this first book, God opens it up with a simple description of the adversary as the observer and accuser of man. Now, it may be worth remembering it's going to be the first question on your exam. And now think about it. If God already knows everything we have ever done or ever will do, why would the devil waste his time accusing us to the Father? You ever think about that? Why would the devil waste his time accusing us in front of God or to God? Think about that. God already knows what you've done. He already knows what you're going to do that's wrong. He already knows. He knows everything. So why is he called the accuser? See, the accuser isn't narking you out to God. He's accusing you to you. Why? Why is he accusing you to you? This will make sense in a minute. The first and greatest weapon the devil uses against spiritually minded people is to get you to either doubt yourself or to question your beliefs. The first thing. Think Eve in the garden or Jesus in the wilderness. To Eve, did God really say that? To Jesus, if, hypothetically speaking, you really are the Son of God? See, Eve bit. Jesus ignored the bait. Jesus never doubted who he was. We should never doubt who God made us. We should never doubt the great parts that we are. We should never doubt our sonship, our righteousness. See, 1 Peter 5:8-9 from the GW. Keep your mind clear and be alert. Your opponent, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion as he looks for someone to devour. Be firm in the faith and resist him, knowing that other believers throughout the world are going through the same kinds of suffering. Other people go through the same things that we do. You're not alone, but don't we feel alone a lot of the times? Sure. 99.9% of the time, all the accuser has to do to trip us up is to get us to not believe in ourselves or to doubt ourselves or to get us to question or doubt what we believe. That'll stop you right there. It's always the first question. And most people don't even pass that on the test. The very first. How many times do we think poorly of ourselves? Far too many. How many times do we question what we believe? You see, he does this with information he's gathered about us, and he regurgitates it back to us, mainly through the media and the people who have close access to us. But it could be through songs, could be through music, could be through television shows. You ever get emotional when you watch a show? No? Some people do, some people don't. You see, it affects you. You ever hear a song and it touches you? It moves you emotionally. You see, certain songs are easier to dance to than other songs, right? It's not that hard to get manipulated by, too. See, the accuser first accuses us in the form of a question. We have to remind ourselves that we are even greater than what we think we are. Because the first is always going to be, am I really that? Can I really do that? Somebody asks you to pray for them. How many times you wonder, gosh, are they going to get healed or are they not? It's just little stuff like that. It's just these little doubts that have just been in us our whole life. And it's hard to beat them out of us. Jesus Christ never got started with it. He worked it since he was a child. That's why he was so dynamic. If you really want to walk with power, we've got to get good at this, and we've got to beat this first question. Do you believe in yourself? And do you believe in God, or believe that God is at work within you to will and to do of His good pleasure? You see, we must remind ourselves we're even greater than we think we are. You're greater than you think you are. You're better than the sum of all your parts. We're greater than the sum of all our parts. And your parts are amazing. Now, search engine similarities. This thing we call the devil, I'll call it a thing, or accuser, does not function like a human. You cannot think of the devil having emotions and thoughts and memory like you do. It's nothing like you. It is nothing like you. In some ways, it's like a complex machine or a series of computers. You know, the adversary, the accuser's like that. The accuser is prowling and growling the earth, watching and gathering and storing information to use against you someday. You know, and it's a bit disturbing, but we all understand it. Now, this is going to get to a good place. And what I'm about to share, you may like to hear, and some of it may scare you. But to try to explain how the adversary works, I'm going to use an example we all know and love. And it's a company called Google. And now I'm not saying this search engine is evil. This is just an example. It's just an example. Now, Google stores all your emails and personal information on over 1 million servers scattered around the world, commonly called the cloud. You see, they record where you shop and what you like to buy. They know your age, your birthday, they know your sex, they know your sexual preference, they know your social security number, they know all your phone numbers you've ever had, your credit card numbers, all your addresses, how many children you have, and their names and their social security numbers. They know where you've worked, where you've lived, and what cars you drive. It can even calculate if a woman is pregnant and how far along she is because of her shopping choices online, or just with a credit card. They know what you bought on Amazon, Wayfair, Etsy, eBay, Apple, Urban Outfitters, and at Goodwill.com. You see, Google knows and records all your tweets, all your texts, Facebook posts, has seen all your digital pictures. It records the images you've seen as well as the ones you wish you had not seen, and the ones you could not resist seeing. It knows your political leanings. If you own guns, it knows that. It knows what college you went to. It knows if you served in the military and what branch and what rank. It knows if you have erectile dysfunction. You see, it even watches the YouTubes you watch because Google owns YouTube. So you switch to Firefox. Good luck with that. Firefox uses Google as its search engine. You Apple aficionados, don't get too cocky. Safari browser relies on Google for many of its searches too. See, Facebook is huge, but it's an infant sucking on its toes compared to Google. Google knows exactly where your house is, what it looks like from street level, and from outer space. You see, your smartphone triangulates your position all day long. Google knows where you are located at all times. Most disturbingly to me, did you know that Google owns a huge portion of major DNA mapping companies? And if you've done one of those DNA tests, they know your genetic heritage and what diseases you are prone to by the genetic markers. They also know who you would be a good match for as an organ donor. They know what foods, drinks, and what environments can switch on and off many of your unique or deadly genetic triggers. Google knows far more about you than you know or care to know about yourself. They use this information to make boatloads of money, but they could just as easily use it to ruin you if they had a reason. The wild thing is, you gave Google permission to monitor you 24/7 with a single agree click in one of those boring, seldom read disclosures. The devil didn't ask your permission. Knowing all that, I still use Google every day. You see, the devil and his familiar spirits are similar to, but far more advanced than Google in their prowling prowess. The accuser, the devil, Satan, the spirits who accumulates this info on you makes Google look like a shiny-faced infant that doesn't yet know what to do with its hands. I'm telling you, this is some complex stuff, folks. And this is why it's so hard to take a stand sometimes, so hard to believe. Because you're getting told all day long in manipulative ways of what the world wants you to be. The host of hell has been doing this spying thing a lot longer and better and more efficiently than all the soft-bearded, tastefully tattooed millennial engineers at Google combined. I'll bet those 30-somethings would love to know how and where the devil stores all this information. Think they'd like to know? Holy moly! Not to mention the info on your grandma, Christopher Columbus, Gandhi, Hitler, Mother Teresa, and Mary Magdalene. Every person who has ever lived has been tracked and tabulated and recorded since humans were running around barefoot carrying sharp sticks. Every human is recorded most of your life. That's spooky. God also keeps a track of you. Did you know that? But He just keeps a track of our good deeds. You see, and He forgets all the bad. He purges that. What they call it, bleach bit or something. He gets rid of all that. He gets rid of the junk. He don't want to keep that in his systems. And here's some verses here. And their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. Hebrews 10:17. God doesn't even remember them. So if you remember them, where do you think it's getting brought up from? Where do you think it's getting brought up from? Not Google. Could be. The accuser. You see, he loves every part of you. The very hairs of your head are all numbered. Matthew 10:30. I mean, to count somebody's hair, somebody's got to love you, right? For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which means He loves to remember your labors of love, you see. He loves to remember your good works. That's Hebrews 6:10. They have recorded in some sort of spiritual archive, some easily retrievable cloud, almost every move you've ever made, every facial expression, every tone of voice, every song you sang or didn't sing. It's all recorded. It's all there. That's why it's so hard to live in this world, folks. We have an incredibly smart, bright, talented, and devious enemy, the accuser. And he's accusing you day and night before God, it says in Revelation. Doesn't mean he's telling God that. He doesn't care if God hears it. He's doing it in front of God and everybody. He don't care. He'll do anything to make you feel less of yourself because then he's got you. He beat you at step one. You failed the test if you failed step one. He doesn't even need to go to step two. I'm not even going to go to step two in this teaching. We can't get past step one. We have to get good at step one, or we'll never get good at the other steps. See, the accuser catalogs everything, but God records only the good things you've done. Good God, y'all. If Google can get away with what it does, is it any wonder that the Bible says the devil runs the cultures of this world? And is even called the God of this world, small g. That's what they call him. They call him that. 2 Corinthians 4:4, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. He blinds us with stupidity about us. He blinds us with our past. He blinds us with our inadequacies. He blinds us with the things that we've done wrong or have not done that we knew we should have done. We beat ourselves up so much. If you talk to your best friends the way you talk to yourself, they would hate you. It's amazing. You wonder why people are committing suicide like it's popcorn nowadays? It's because the world's getting better and better at training people to think poorly of themselves. Minds get blinded with misinformation as light gets manipulated. It may come in looking like it's really good, and then there's a twist. See, as evil as you think the devil is, he can turn on the shine and fool the best of us. 2 Corinthians 11:14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. How could he have fooled Eve? What do you think he looked like when Jesus was getting tempted in the wilderness? One of those he had to have been flat out amazing. Who can usually hurt you the most in life? The people closest to you. How about this verse? If God be for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Now, don't worry about it. There are more on our side than on their side. 2 Kings 16:16 from the Message. There are more on our side than on their side. Yeah, somebody in the audience just said 2/3, because we have 2/3 of the good angels on our side as opposed to 1/3. Yet we give so much credence to that 1/3 that we fail to see that we have twice as many things helping us. My God, let's get it through our thick heads. You are greater than this, the whole of you is greater than the sum of all your parts. Some of our parts may not be so good. Some of them are fantastic, but you're greater than the sum of all those because God made you great. The accuser, the information accumulator, the devil is powerful, but as advanced as he is kindergarten compared to the goodness of God. All the power he has, bigger than Google, you see, is nothing compared to what God can do for us, because God lives in your past, present, and future. It's like I've said in a few teachings. I mean, scientists have recently found out over the last 10 years that about half the water on Earth predates our solar system and our sun. Now, how could there be water before we even had a planet? So that means some water got brought in from somewhere else or some other time because we needed it on Earth. Isn't that crazy? So what do you think God could do for you? He can move heaven, earth, and time. And time for you. God made you far greater than the sum of all your parts. How great are you, people? How great do you think you are? I think you're pretty amazing. You see, now a different view of the world. If you think the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and you don't take this, and so you don't take this analogy too far, we need to look at some statistics. Because people think it's getting worse and worse and worse. The world's getting worse and worse and worse. It didn't say the world's getting worse and worse. It says evil men and seducers are getting worse and worse. Contrary to what the media floods us with, in reality the world is far safer now than it ever was. Now watch the news and you won't believe that. You see, humans living today have the highest life expectancy of any humans in the past few thousand years. Our chances of being murdered, of dying from sickness or disease, of being killed by another human being in any way, including terrorism, are the smallest they've ever been in history. No matter what any news feed says, it's an amazing time to be alive. Wikipedia tells us 17th century English life expectancy was only about 35 years. largely because of infant and child mortality, remained high. Life expectancy was under 25 years in the early colony of Virginia. And in 17th century New England, about 40% of people died before they reached adulthood. We've come a long way, baby. You know, just look at our country socially. It seems so divided, but it's a lot better than it was 50 years ago. You see, like I said earlier, sometimes we need to know what we're up against so we can maintain our mindset to success. You know, but just don't get too hung up on the news. Because if you feel helpless, do you believe in God or believe in yourself as much? No, you can't. And what do you think the news is trying to do? It's making you feel helpless. I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote this time. You know, so no matter how much the media tries to break us down and make us feel helpless and small, always remember that as a whole, we are greater than the sum of our parts. Forgive yourself. As helpless as this invasion of privacy may make us feel, we can live above the fray. Even those things better left unseen. Things we've been forgiven for. Even that thing you did that one time, you know what I'm talking about, is gone from the mind of God. You see, for thou hast cast all my sins behind thy back. Isaiah 38:17. Thou wilt cast their sins into the depth of the sea. Micah 7:19. You see, God takes all our crimes, our seemingly inexhaustible sins, and removes them as far as the east is from the west, and He removes them from us. Psalm 103:12 from The Voice. I like that, seemingly inexhaustible. And the weirdest thing is a sin. If you look it up in the Hebrew or the Greek, it means you missed the mark. A sin, really, it's not that God cares so much, it's that you just didn't reach the finish line. A sin is really against you. People say, oh, you sinned against God and against man. And your suit starts getting shinier and shinier, and you know, and your hair gets bigger and bigger, and a Conway Twitty hairdo or something. You see, you got your little hanky and you're wiping your forehead. Oh, you know, and so it's crazy. God's taken all our crimes, our seemingly inexhaustible sins, and removes them from us. He casts them as far as the east is from the west and remembers them no more. They're gone. Why do we want to remember them? While Google and the accuser are recording things, God takes all your wrongs and He just tosses them behind His back. You see, He throws them into the deepest sea, removes them completely from us, and He doesn't even remember them anymore. That's not too bad, folks. Why should we remember them? You think you need some forgiveness? You need to forgive yourself? You are loved, folks. You're forgiven. So forgive yourself. Because you're far greater than the sum of all your parts. Get used to it. Get used to being loved. Get used to loving yourself. Get used to feeling forgiven. Get used to not caring what happened yesterday. Can you do anything about it anyway? No. You see? So what do we do with this information? Knowing that we allowed ourselves to be surveilled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, may cause a tinge of regret. But knowing that we're fully integrated into the heart of God should give us the boldness to live life out loud. Just like my checkered teenage past had much room for improvement, even though I had a 55 Chevy, I can't do anything about my past. You see, God's forgiven us all, so you know something? I'm going to forgive myself. And I suggest that you figure out how to forgive yourself. And the similarities between Google and the God of this world may seem small when it comes to control and marketing, but God has set you far above the world, and God has your back. Remember, the first trick the accuser uses to trick, trap, and torment you is to get you to think less of yourself, which in turn will affect your belief system. The Father wants you to remember that you are more than conquerors, a super conqueror. You're designed to dominate. You're a child of God, a joint heir sibling of the Christ. You can do all things through Christ. You've been given health and prosperity. By His stripes ye were healed. You've been given exceeding abundantly above all that ye ask or think. The eyes of your understanding have been enlightened. You are the lights of the world, people. To remember all your good parts that make up the whole of you, the beautiful you, is to constantly remind yourself that you are forgiven forever and ever and ever. You are greater than the sum of all your parts. Now, go out there and show the world what you're made of. God bless.